TV show Hannibal, if you haven't heard of it already, is a prequel to the Silence of the Lambs series. It looks at Dr. Hannibal Lecter before he was caught for being a serial killer. And he's still a practicing psychiatrist, and specifically he's gaslighting a young empath who works for the FBI. It's a fascinating series. It's an excellent study of a high-functioning psychopath, as well as how to trigger amygdalic reflexes in people that are imbalanced. Found out about it from Anonymous Conservative, and if it sounds like your cup of tea, I'll give it a recommendation. That said, early on, there was a scene that really, really disturbed me. It involves a young woman, a fairly young woman, who's a professional blogger that writes about the crimes that the FBI is covering all the time. And the FBI doesn't like her because she does a lot of subversive things. She sneaks in, she's a bad person, and she risks their investigations being closed because she's, an arrogant, horrible person. So I'm just going to play that scene for you right now, and then I want to discuss it. So here we go.
Who is it? Who is it?
Clear.
I appreciate the pageantry, Agent Crawford, but you can't arrest me for writing an article.
You entered a federal crime scene without permission.
Escorted by a detective.
Under false pretense.
It is as good as permission.
You lied to a police officer.
You can't arrest me for lying.
You were in the Shrike's nest. You know how I know? Because you left one of these hairs behind. You contaminated the crime scene. Just like everywhere you go, you contaminate crime scenes. That's obstructing justice. I can indict you for obstructing justice.
I'd appreciate it if you didn't.
You don't write another word about Will Graham, and I won't have to.
So right off the bat, the most disturbing thing about that scene was the no-knock warrant. The no-knock warrant is something that's only supposed to happen in highly dangerous situations. In other words, when the cops are going after an extremely dangerous, a violent target, they raid the home at 3 a.m, when the target's hopefully sleeping, and they don't knock first. They don't announce that it's the police at the door. They just run in, guns ready, and put everybody down on the floor. And you know what? When they're going after a dangerous target, all the power to them. We do not want cops dying in the line of duty. This woman was not a high-profile target, however. She's a writer. She's a blogger. And however horrible of a person she might be, using a no-knock warrant in that case is absolutely inexcusable. Quite frankly, that's how you get cops shot. If you had your gun and somebody just kicked down your door with no announcement, nobody saying this is the police, you would be fully within your rights to shoot that person. And so all of a sudden you have some dead cops and you have a dead woman who is somebody that they wanted to speak to. The next major issue. Not only did they employ a no-knock warrant on a soft target, she hadn't even committed a crime. Now, later on in the scene, yes, he does say, I could charge you with obstruction of justice. Except they weren't planning to charge her with obstruction of justice. You don't get to kick down a door if you're not going to arrest anybody. And they didn't arrest her. Which brings us to number 3. Putting her in the zip ties. Once again, the zip ties are part of a SWAT raid. They're part of a no-knock warrant. In other words, there's a dangerous, highly volatile suspect, and you're not going to play games. You're going to kick down the door, and you're going to zip tie everybody. And there's other scenes like that in the series that, yes, You want to zip tie everybody. You're going into there's one where they go into a grocery store, and yeah, they zip tie everybody in the grocery store while they look for the bad guy. That's standard procedure, because everybody in the grocery store is a suspect. Yes, there's the one guy they're looking for, but they don't know what's going on with the rest of these people. They need to control the situation. Zip tying people is completely appropriate. It wasn't with this journalist. This woman was minding her own business. They were not going to charge her with a crime. She was not a suspect. They knew exactly who she was, and she's not a violent person. And she's the only one in the room. There is absolutely zero excuse for zip tying her. In fact, the zip tying itself would be kidnapping. Since they didn't have any real plans to prosecute her, what they did was an invasion of the home. It was a break and enter followed by an abduction. Everybody, every single cop in that scene should be serving time behind bars. Now, listen, in the mythology of the series, these cops are fighting a new serial killer every single week. And you know what? When I play video games, I like to pretend I'm a space marine fighting off the spawn of Satan. You know, making a few exceptions when you're fighting off the spawn of Satan. Or on 24, when there's a new terrorist threat constantly, and there's going to be 1 million people dead. At that point, breaking some of the rules, I can see that. Back in the army, we had a saying, better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. However, in real life, serial killers are not that common. Serial killers aren't that interesting either. The vast majority of serial killers are either somebody that's schizophrenic, or they're some idiot retard, lower income gangbanger type serial killer. Like, they're not interesting. You catch them because they carry their phone around with them with their GPS turned on while they commit the crimes. The FBI is not this small team of elite people that's constantly pursuing a new crazy serial killer every week. It's not Dexter. It's not Hannibal. This makes for great TV viewing, absolutely. I love it on TV, I love it in video games, but this is not realistic. And so seeing the police completely violate police procedure, completely overthrow the Constitution in this scene, it blows my mind. It's very worrisome to me that this is being presented to the public, and to me it stands out. To me, it's, you know, like it's like the machine gun with the never-ending chain of bullets from the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. You know, to somebody that doesn't know how a gun works, that they don't notice that. I know how a gun works, it stands out to me. It looks ridiculous. And see, me understanding the basis of law in Western civilization, Canada, the United States, Australia, Britain, whatever, all going back to common law, fundamentally. Understanding how this stuff works, seeing the police violate the law that drastically, really shocked. It pulls me out of it, first of all. But what worries me more is the fact that they would do this means that they don't think the American Constitution is something everybody knows. It's the same way the machine gun, Arnold Schwarzenegger and the machine gun, that's esoteric knowledge. Most people don't know how machine guns work, that's why they put it in there. And it's not the end of the earth that people don't know how machine guns work. But when Americans don't know their own Constitution, they don't know that this scene should have these cops in prison for years, I find that incredibly worrisome. Now, you know what? I wish I were more conspiratorial minded. You know, it would be comforting to me if this was simply a conspiracy to train the American public to be more docile and obedient and not to notice when the Constitution is being shredded by the federal government. But that's not what I think is happening. What I think is happening is that Americans just don't know and don't care about their constitution. And the writers for this show, they themselves don't know and don't care about the constitution. The same way people think you can use a silencer and nobody will hear your gun. You can. Guns are still really loud with a silencer on. It just they no longer damage your hearing. That's the difference. But the writers don't know that. They want a secret stealth gun. Okay, I let that slide. But when Americans don't understand that you have the right not to be arbitrarily searched and seized by the government, that is more disturbing than all of the bloody torture scenes they have in that PG-14 TV series. Nonetheless, Hannibal's a pretty good show, so if you're looking for an interesting study of one of the rare high-functioning psychopaths, most psychopaths are very dull, then go check it out. Rini out, folks, and remember, be professional, be polite, and have a plan to kill everybody you meet. Take care.